Okay, let's dive into this because today we are untangling what is easily one of the most chilling, enduring cold cases in human history. We're looking at the princes in the Tower. It's Britain's absolute greatest royal mystery. I mean, we're talking about a story that is literally dripping with power, massive betrayal, and a sudden, shocking disappearance that completely changed the course of an entire nation. So, if you're the kind of person who is fascinated by history's most complex, unsolved puzzles, well, you're in the perfect place. We're going to use the historical records to piece together exactly what happened, or I guess what we know happened, to two young boys who got caught up in this treacherous web of medieval politics. Two young princes entered the Tower of London and were never seen again. Just let that sink in for a second. It sounds like the dark premise of a fictional true crime thriller, right? But no, this is cold, hard history. Over 5 whole centuries have passed, and this mystery remains resolutely unsolved. It's like the ultimate locked room mystery, but played out on a grand royal scale. Seriously, how do two highly visible, heavily guarded members of the royal family just vanish from one of the most impenetrable fortresses in all of Europe? That absolute, total disappearance is exactly what makes this such a captivating historical anomaly. To actually understand how we get to that crazy vanishing act, we really have to look at the incredibly dangerous game of royal succession. Because, the transition of power from one monarch to the next, it was rarely peaceful back then. When King Edward IV died unexpectedly, he left behind 2 young sons, 12-year-old Edward V, who was the new boy king, and his younger brother Richard. Now, what's really interesting here, and honestly quite tragic, is their extreme vulnerability. Because they were just kids, they couldn't rule independently. They needed protectors, regents, and all these adult advisors around them. In a political landscape defined by just ruthless ambition, being a child holding the keys to the kingdom didn't actually make you powerful. It basically painted a giant target on your back. Let's move to and see how this builds, because the speed at which these events unfolded is just truly staggering. Almost immediately after the sudden death of King Edward, this frantic, intense power struggle erupts. Over the following weeks, the young King Edward V and his brother Richard are escorted to the Tower of London. Now, context is super crucial here. Today, we think of the Tower strictly as this terrifying prison, but back then it was actually a traditional royal residence where monarchs would safely await their coronation. So them arriving there wasn't inherently suspicious at first. But then comes the turning point. Shortly after they arrive, as the date for young Edward's coronation gets repeatedly and mysteriously delayed, the boys suddenly disappear from public view. The trap had essentially just closed around them inside that imposing fortress. They simply vanished, completely without a trace. Try to imagine the sheer, unprecedented shock that swept across England. These weren't just any children we're talking about. One of them was literally the rightful King of England. At first, they were actually seen playing out in the Tower grounds, occasionally shooting arrows, totally visible to everyday passersby. But as the summer wore on, those sightings grew less and less frequent, until they just stopped entirely. Rumors started spreading like wildfire through the streets of London and all across the continent of Europe. There were no bodies found, no official announcements of illness, absolutely no ransom notes. Just this eerie, deafening silence coming from the most heavily fortified castle in the land. It was a vanishing act that left an entire nation completely stunned. Naturally, when a crime this monumental occurs, history demands a suspect. Now, on one side of the debate, the really obvious suspect is Richard III. That's the boy's uncle who famously swooped in and claimed the throne for himself shortly after their disappearance. He definitely had the means, the access, and arguably the most clear-cut political motive. But as we know, history isn't always that straightforward, right? Other historians point to figures like Henry Tudor, who later claimed the throne as Henry VII, or even the highly ambitious Duke of Buckingham. We really have to look at the historical records neutrally here. The sources actually provide really compelling arguments for multiple perpetrators, and it's absolutely vital we don't just jump straight to the most famous conclusion without acknowledging that absolute certainty still totally eludes us. And this brilliantly illustrates the core problem historians face with this case. While the leading theory has historically focused heavily on Richard III, other highly valid historical possibilities exist. The primary motive across all of these theories, though, remains exactly the same: securing the royal succession by eliminating any rival claimants to the throne. But the crucial takeaway for us here, the evidence remains entirely circumstantial. We have writings from political rivals, we have rumors that were recorded by later chroniclers, but we have zero physical contemporary proof connecting anyone directly to a murder.
It's a 500-year-old investigation built almost entirely on motive and opportunity.
But wait, just when you think the trail has gone completely cold, we jump forward in time nearly 2 full centuries. The year is 1674. Workers were just carrying out some routine renovations inside the Tower of London, and while they were digging at the base of a staircase in the White Tower, they made a gruesome, shocking discovery. Hidden away beneath the stone steps was a wooden box containing the skeletons of 2 children. It was a dramatic reveal that absolutely sent shockwaves through the historical community. Finally, or so it seemed, the silent walls of the tower had actually given up their darkest secret.
But history is rarely that tidy, is it? Instead of closing the case once and for all, this physical discovery was really only the beginning. While the public, and even the monarchy, immediately assumed these were the lost princes, King Charles II even had the remains honorably interred in Westminster Abbey under the names of Edward and Richard, the story absolutely doesn't end there. Today, historians and scientists are still actively debating their true identity. The bones were briefly examined back in the 1930s, but modern DNA testing? That's never actually been permitted by the Crown. So are these definitively the missing royals, or just 2 anonymous victims of the Tower's bloody, brutal history? Believe it or not, the physical evidence actually deepens the mystery rather than neatly solving it. So the crucial point is this. For over 500 years, this unsolved legacy has continued to deeply, deeply fascinate millions of people worldwide. It really is a true testament to the power of a historical enigma. Think about it. We are separated from these events by half a millennium, yet the fate of those 2 young boys still fiercely captures our imagination. It's inspired countless books, plays, and just relentless historical research. The very fact that after 5 whole centuries, we are still out here poring over the exact same clues, still debating the exact same suspects, and still totally captivated by the same shadows in the Tower of London, well, it shows just how profoundly this story resonates with our deeply human desire for truth and resolution. Which ultimately leaves us with this final, haunting question. Is the truth buried forever within the tower? Or is history still just waiting for someone to finally uncover its greatest secret? Who knows? Perhaps a lost, definitive document is lying hidden in some dusty European archive right now. Or perhaps one day, modern science will finally be allowed to examine those bones resting in Westminster Abbey. But until then, the princes in the tower remain the ultimate cold case. If you enjoyed this deep dive and you love exploring history's most fascinating puzzles, please don't forget to like this explainer, hit that subscribe button, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on more incredible content. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll see you in the next mystery.